Hello and welcome to Redaction Report for a special edition of our show. Today we're going to be talking about the rapidly unfolding situation in Ukraine. At time of speaking, at time of recording, Russia reportedly has some 100,000 troops amassed on the Ukrainian border, and the US intelligence has warned that an invasion could be imminent, could be happening as soon as this coming week. I'm joined today by Redaction's good old friend, Declan Carey, who has recently come back from Ukraine and is here to share his insights. Declan, how's things going?
Not bad, thanks, James. Yeah, hanging in there. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. Not too bad at all, mate. So, Ukraine. What's the vibe like there at the moment, in want of a better word? What's the feeling on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can share the insight from the people that I've spoken to when I was over there. It's worth saying that I've been to Ukraine many times over the last few years. My partner's Ukrainian. We have friends over there who we see. Her family is over there, based in Odessa. So I'm really basing this on my experience of the people I've spoken to and what it was like when I was over there. Weirdly enough, I'd say that when I was in Odessa for about 2 weeks just after New Year, it wasn't the issue that was plastered all over the place that everyone was just talking about and you'd see all over the newspapers and the TV. Like, of course it was there, it was going on, but I think it's really important to remember that this is not something that's new for Ukrainians. It's Ukraine was invaded in 2014 by the Russian military. It had parts of its territory in the Donbass and Crimea annexed or occupied at least. So this has been going on ever since. And if you look at the statistics of what this war has been like since then, and it is a war, as much as Russia isn't at the moment taking further steps into Ukraine, it is a war, and Ukrainian soldiers and civilians are dying every day. You can see the statistics. I know people who've been affected by this, some of our friends in Kiev and in southern Ukraine as well. So I think that's worth saying, that for Ukrainians, it's nothing new. And I think that's partly why the panic that we've seen in the West, in media over here, it is obviously a lot stronger than it is over there, because people are somewhat used to this situation. They're used to the daily deaths every day. They've been, I guess, for want of a better phrase, hardened by years of suffering and war, and that's just how it is there. That said, though, that there are obviously huge concerns, because with reports of any minute a large Russian force coming into the country, that will have catastrophic consequences for families, for friends, for property, for all kinds of things. People's lives will genuinely just be ruined. People's lives will be over. I've read reports that if a Russian invasion does come, it may start with heavy aerial bombardment in areas possibly around the capital, Kiev. This is a huge city with millions of people in it. There are going to be people who are dying who have got nothing to do with this war. That's Russian speakers, that's Ukrainian speakers, that's, no one wins from this invasion, and there are huge concerns over that. So I think, the feeling on the ground is people are worried about it. People are used to it because this is nothing new. And I think it's an anxious time to be in Ukraine at the moment.
Like you say quite rightly, this is not at all unprecedented, but it's nearly 8 years now since Russian intervention in the Crimea, which saw the peninsula annexed by Russia. And like you say, there are regions of eastern Ukraine which also are back under the control of Russian-backed separatist forces. Obviously, you've got cities like Kiev, cities like Odessa that are considerably further into Ukraine, and everywhere there is at risk of this potential Russian invasion. What would you say would be the immediate consequences of this invasion, both for Ukraine and for Russia?
Yeah, I think we're going to see catastrophe, widespread loss of human life. This is an army in Ukraine now which is well prepared. They've been at war for many years. They've got huge amounts of defensive weaponry now sent from the UK, from countries like Latvia, Lithuania, the Czech Republic. It's a well-armed country, and it's worth also remembering that in Ukraine there is still national service for men. So any Russian invasion that goes beyond the front line, which is mostly in eastern Ukraine, is not going to be welcomed. It's going to be in a country where there's a hostile population which is well trained in warfare, knows how to fight, possibly armed, possibly there will be weapons there. We've seen reports of already civilians doing drills and training. So there's going to be widespread loss, not just on the Ukrainian side, but also on the Russian side too. We're going to see Russian families who are divided, who come, have sons being sent home in coffins. It's not going to be good for anyone. I think the fear is that an attack could go for the capital Kiev, and obviously it's very close to Belarus, which is just to the north of Kiev, and Russian soldiers are believed to be stationed there too. It does seem really difficult how Ukraine will be able to hold out from an attack from 3 or even possibly 4 sides. So from Belarus, from Russia, especially in the Donbass area occupied by separatists, obviously from Crimea as well, where the Russian Navy has a big presence, and also even in Moldova as well. So it seems really hard how Ukraine will maybe hold out on that. And obviously the eastern and central part of it are going to be the ones who take the heavy losses there. But I mean, just in terms of my sort of what I've seen in the country over the last few years when I've gone, is the actual Ukrainian identity is as strong now as it's ever been before. And by that, I mean, when I was in Odessa for a couple of weeks just very recently, which is, I suppose you would say it's a historically Russian-speaking part of Ukraine. It's not too far from Crimea. It's an area down that side, and more people spoke Ukrainian than I've ever seen before. When you go to restaurants now, when you go to walk down the high streets there, you hear more Ukrainian than I've ever heard before. In the past, it was heavily Russian. With people talking with friends, people talking with families, it tended most to be Russian. In Odessa. Now it's changed a lot. More people are in Ukraine, more people are saying, well, this is our identity, this is who we are. And I think that's why any invasion that Russia does will be met by really a hostile force, and there'll be massive consequences for both sides.
One of the big talking points around this potential invasion has been the potential accession to NATO by Ukraine. Do you want to talk us through a bit of that?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's an issue that is on many Ukrainians' mind, and this has been the case since before 2014. If we remember 2014, when the key events was the Euromaidan revolution, which the former Ukrainian president, Yanukovych, he was ousted and he fled to Russia. And one of the reasons was because he didn't want to integrate further with organizations like the European Union. Now, many Ukrainians, they're looking west, they're looking to things like the EU. The EU's given Ukrainians visa-free travel, for example, to go to places where they would never have been able to go before. So those ties are getting closer. Many Ukrainians are learning English now. A lot of young people, when I was there, like many European countries, they'll speak English fluently, and at the cafes, at the restaurants, you can order and hold a conversation. There's no problem with that. So NATO is symbolically part of that. It's a look to the West. It's a look to, well, we want what countries like Poland and the Czech Republic and Slovakia have had since joining the European Union, since joining defensive military alliances. So many Ukrainians are looking at that. Now, I don't think it's likely at the moment, because one of the problems that Ukraine has is that there's a high level of corruption there. If you look at corruption indexes, it's still one of the highest in the world, and that causes a lot of problems in the country. Now, it has been getting better. If you look at the stats since 2014, when Yanukovych fled to Russia during the Euromaidan revolution, points of corruption, it has been improving very gradually, as you can imagine it would. But I think, especially now with the increased Russian aggression, with the war in Ukraine that's been going on for many years now, I think many Ukrainians see NATO as a place which could guarantee their safety. it would be a thing which would give them a lot of confidence. It would give them a lot of support and funding and weaponry to defend themselves against Russia. And looking at it like that, you'd say, well, why wouldn't they do that? Because when their closest neighbour and biggest neighbour is constantly waging war against them, you know, that's going to cause them big problems. So I think lots of Ukrainians want to join NATO. I think it's a huge political ambition. I think they'd want to have even closer ties to the EU, similar to Georgia as well. Whether it's going to be a reality, I'm seriously doubtful at the moment with the high level of corruption in the country. And just with the aggression of Russia at the moment.
Declan, thanks very much for your time.
No problem. Thanks, James.
Thanks everyone for tuning in for this special report, our redaction report here on the situation in Ukraine. Obviously, keep an eye out for our full show coming in February. That'll be coming before you know it. And in the meantime, we'll be keeping you fully up to date on the situations in Ukraine as it unfolds. And we'll have it known, as token a gesture as it may be, that Redaction Report stands in full solidarity with the people of Ukraine against Russian aggression. But until next time, thanks very much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon.